Why write the book?
There's that quote by Toni Morrison that says that if there's a book out there that hasn't been written yet, the book that you would like to read, if it hasn't been written yet, then you should be the one to write it. And that's exactly how I felt, because I needed something to resonate with me. And I felt that I have a story to tell. And it was more like a calling. It was actually like a calling to say, you've been through so much. You have something to say. Say it. You don't know who it will reach and who it may help. And I needed to put it down on paper. The best way to do it was on paper, because not all of us have that voice that reaches others. And writing was very therapeutic for me, in a way. Just putting it down on paper, I discovered things about myself. I discovered things that went about my past. I discovered things that I didn't know. And there wasn't that fear anymore of, when you're living in a space where you're afraid when somebody comes home, what is mood going to be like? What is this going to be like? What is he going to say today? And, the kids were like stressed and tense as well. And not having those feelings and those emotions to deal with was the most liberating, amazing thing. We accomplished so many things. My kids and I, during that time after divorce, immediately after divorce, we set up a dental practice for my daughter. I was writing exams. My other daughter was graduating. So it was all these little accomplishments that we just celebrated and embraced as a family. It was amazing. It was incredible. And I was kind of rebuilding myself, discovering myself. We lose that part of ourselves, that inner child, because it depends how your partner is, where you're not allowed to speak a certain way, you're not allowed to act a certain way. And I think that was the most liberating part for me, where after leaving that situation that was so tense and living in fear of what's coming next, for me and for my kids, we were actually, it was like a load taken off your shoulders. Now you're out of this situation where you feel much lighter, much brighter, and you're actually laughing and you're joking and it's incredible, and that's what I would like people to know, that I divorced in my 50s after a 30-year marriage, and it gets better, that it's never over, and anything is possible.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. It's another episode of Zen and Now. And today's guest is Sharmila, Ranchod, an author whose journey through divorce became a catalyst for purpose. Now she's using her story to inspire, support, and making a meaningful difference in the lives of others. So let's dive into this conversation. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Kishen. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. It's a real honor and privilege to be on your show. And
thank you so much. Story. You're welcome. When I reached out to you, I really felt it was important, because there's so many people who are actually going through this right now, especially in later on in their lives, because sometimes we think of separation from a relationship very early on, and from when we first get into that relationship. So when I reached out to you, I felt your story is going to resonate with another audience that listens to the podcast or will be listening to this podcast, because there are so many who are in your position right now that are having those thoughts but just don't know how to feel in this moment. So thank you for taking the time out to share your story and being so openly and brave to actually put it out there.
Thank you, Kishen. It has been an incredible, empowering journey for me, and I would love to share with everybody how I navigated my way through this entire process.
Amazing. Why write the book?
There's that quote by Toni Morrison that says that if there's a book out there that hasn't been written yet, the book that you would like to read, if it hasn't been written yet, then you should be the one to write it. And that's exactly how I felt, because I needed something to resonate with me. And I felt that I have a story to tell. And it was more like a calling. It was actually like a calling to say, you've been through so much. You have something to say. Say it. You don't know who it will reach and who it may help. And I needed to put it down on paper. There was just so much going on with me, and there were so many lessons, so many things that I felt that I needed to kind of put it out there. And the best way to do it was on paper, because not all of us have that voice that reaches others.
Yes.
And writing was very therapeutic for me in a way. Just putting it down on paper, I discovered things about myself. I discovered things that went about my past. I discovered things that I didn't know about anything about life.
Yeah.
I shed a lot of tears writing as well. When I started writing, it was completely different. It was 2 years ago, just after my divorce. And I kind of wanted to send a message to young girls, young women, because I have 2 daughters myself. And I said, coming from an Indian community, we kind of live in a certain way, and I won't say we pushed into a situation. I wasn't pushed into getting married. I did it. It was a love marriage. I went into it willingly, happily, thinking that I'll be building a future with this person. And, we're going to be growing old together. We're going to build a family. But it doesn't always work that way, because sometimes you grow apart. You don't grow together. And it was kind of, we don't talk in our community. It's kind of taboo to say what you're going through. Like, why would she talk about it? When, strangely enough, I would say family members, I won't mention who, but they said, what do you do? What are you doing now? And I said, I've just finished writing a book. And what did you write about? I said, I wrote a memoir. It's on my life story. And they said, why would you do something like that? Isn't that something you would write put it into a diary, or you write it on paper and then you burn it after that? You don't go and tell the world about your life. How can you do something like that? So
Yeah.
those are the kinds of responses that I got. And I know that I said a lot of things about my past, even my childhood, which my family would kind of feel like, why would she say something like that? We didn't know she
Yeah.
felt that way. But that's the reason why I felt it necessary to talk about it, because you learn about your childhood traumas and how it affects you going forward, and the kind of people you attract in your life, how it affects your relationships. So it was something that I connected everything, and I needed to put it together. Like I said, I started writing when I got divorced. Then I went into a relationship, and everything changed for me, because I thought, here I'm in my 50s and I got a second chance at life. And, everything looked different for me. It was kind of so promising, and it was just a very perfectly disguised illusion, all in all. So, yeah.
No, I
And then
think you've done an amazing job
yeah,
in taking that step. Sorry to interject you. I
no,
just
it's
felt
fine.
like you've taken a step so powerful and brave where a lot of people wouldn't. So that's also a win, I would say, because, and not discounting what everybody else is going through. I just feel you had the power within you all the time. It's just we, like you said, in our societies, in our cultural backgrounds, I don't know where it comes from. I'm still trying to understand it as well, why we don't speak about taboo topics, because it's necessary. We're human beings, end of the day. We don't just come into the world knowing how life is or how it's going to be, and we have to live to a certain, like say, certain lineage. But sometimes things change. And now in this day and age, in my own home, I have many family members who have separated from their partners. And that's just the way life is. Whether they're going to be judged or not, but it's their story. It's their lived experience. You are not living, somebody's not living Sharmila's life. So they don't
Mm-hmm.
know, but we also shouldn't discount of when she shares her feelings. It's okay for her to do that because she's allowed to.
Yeah. And the
100%.
way we went to. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yes.
not be judged for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I mean, way back when, if you had to tell your parents that I'm not happy and this is how I feel, and their advice was, you have to learn to tolerate it. And then I thought about it this way, that if one of my kids came and told me that this is how I feel, is that the advice that I'm going to give them? That you must learn to tolerate it? And that's what I wanted, my kids to know, to learn from what I've been through and say that we can do it differently. Somebody has got to break that generational curse. It's like we cannot repeat that same patterns going forward. And if it means that I have to speak out and say whatever I need to, be it a shame story or whatever it is, I'm going to do it, because if it changes at least one person's life along the way, then I can say I've done something good.
Yeah.
By just sharing my story.
I hear you. Breaking those generational curses, it's a lot of pressure, but it's also, it's a very satisfying feeling. Yes, you are the one who was going to be talked about. Yes, you're the one who's going to be judged. Yes, you are the one who's going to be ostracized in a way. Yes, you are going to be the one who's going to be taking those bold steps and taking the risks also, but it's for a better, a higher good, and not just for yourself, but for the next lineage and next generations as well, because they see the bravery and they see the truth that comes out of it. And it's a very, very challenging road, but it's a rewarding one as well. Did you feel when you first began on this journey, to when you first decided, okay, I'm going to write the book, were there any hesitations before you even put pen to paper?
To this day, I have no regrets. I mean, I stopped writing for a while because I went into another relationship. And like I said, my perspectives changed. I thought, why do I need to write anymore? My life has changed. I have new beginnings. Everything looks so, I was starry-eyed. Everything looks so bright. And when that broke down, I was betrayed in that relationship and everything changed. I had a complete breakdown. It was worse than the divorce. And it was then when I picked up on my writing. And I think I did it more out of, because I was dead too. My book was called Stupid. So I thought, I'll show you what stupid is. I'm going to do it. And I'll show you. I'm going to get this done. And it was out of that anger and that hurt and that pain that I had to put down into my book to say, this is how I feel. This is what I'm going through. So that part of my book, initially when I started writing, it was more like about the past. Then I picked up on it and I started writing it as a lived experience. So as I was going through my days, as I was feeling every thought, every emotion that I was feeling, I wrote it down. I used to wake up at 2, 3 in the morning and have an idea or a thought, and I used to type it on my phone. So I could pick up on it the next morning and say, you know what? This is how I've been feeling. And that's how I wrote that part of the book. So if somebody reading it will read it and say, this woman is so completely unhinged, because she starts off a certain way. Then she goes into another, the narrative changes because the emotions change. But it's my story. It's my lived experience. And it's how I want people to read it, because I added a bit of humor in it as well, because we cannot take everything too seriously.
No,
you've got to see yourself that way as well. It's the only way to see it. I'll give you a typical example. My books, the publishing journey was quite stressful. You think that writing a book is a long journey. Then you got to get it to the publishers. And they just couldn't get my cover right. So it was just so dark, that I just told my daughter, eventually I'm just going to have to, make a joke about it and say I was literally torched, or scorched, as you would say. That's what the book looks like, the cover. So if you can't make light of a situation, then, it's pointless. Yeah.
And that's the inner child that we all have. Because at one point we were all children. We all played.
Yeah.
And we all were hilariously making mistakes. And it was accepted, right? And when we grow into that adult phase of our lives, we forget that there's still that inner child within us that wants to play and wants to have fun. And like you said, when you put that part of into your book, it was, I'm just going back, I'm just thinking out aloud. That was part of your inner child to say, hey, I'm not going to take this too seriously, because it's Sharmila. It's who I was. I was born, I was a child.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth.
Yeah. And
Correct me
at
if I'm
some
wrong if
point
I'm saying that.
we lose that part of ourselves, that inner child, because it depends how your partner is, where you're not allowed to speak a certain way, you're not allowed to act a certain way. And I think that was the most liberating part for me,
Mm,
where after leaving that situation that was so tense and living in fear of what's coming next for me and for my kids, we were actually, it was like a load taken off your shoulders. Now you're out of this situation where you feel much lighter, much brighter, and you're actually laughing and you're joking and it's incredible, and that's what I would like people to know, that I divorced in my 50s after a 30-year marriage, and it gets better, that you can never, it's never over, and anything is possible.
yeah, it's comfort, right? When we're in that environment, especially like when you said you got divorced after X amount of years. Normally, people would say that's you just stick with it, you just stay with it. You feel so comfortable. You feel comfortable, but not comfortable in a way because you're just living. You're not actually living, but you're just existing in that
Yes,
environment,
absolutely. Yeah.
and
Mhm.
you kind of lose yourself in that way. But you also have a choice that you need to make, and it's a very difficult one, a very inner dialogue that you need to have with yourself and ask yourself, is this exactly how I want to live the rest of my life? Because yeah, we can't take back but the past, whatever has been done, but we can learn from it. We can make a choice right now and say, okay, it's time now I live my life the way I want to live it and not on anybody else's terms. And that's not selfish. A lot of the times in our culture, people think you're selfish when you make these decisions, right?
Yeah. It's about choosing yourself eventually, through all of that. And you got to realize and decide that I matter too. And my choices matter. And my life matters. My dreams matter. And when you're in a situation like that, you don't even know you had dreams because you're living on autopilot. You're just doing. You don't even have time to pause and think that, maybe I want something out of my life. I mean, I didn't even follow through with my career. I chose my kids. I wanted the best for them. I wanted to be there for them. I want to be that mom that's always there. And I didn't want anything to disrupt their lives, which is why I kept, I stayed in that marriage for so long, because I just felt that leaving would mean that I'm disrupting their studies. Or, there was just never the right time. I have 3 children and each one finishing school or finishing their studies.
Mm.
And I waited till if they were all done with everything. And I said, okay. And eventually, I think they made the decision for me. And I was trying to shield them from everything. And you realize that they're not stupid. They're watching. Your kids
Yeah,
are watching everything. And that's
exactly.
not what the example I wanted to give them about this is what a relationship or a marriage should be like.
Uh-huh.
We're supposed to be setting an example. But living under those conditions, that's not what I wanted for them. And it was liberating and freeing for them as well.
Mm. Yeah, knowing that mom is now making a decision for herself and wants to be happy as well. Because as parents, I'm not a parent, but I would understand that when parents do want to make decisions, they always think of their kids first because they want to
Absolutely.
shield them and make sure that they aren't hurt in the process. And it's very difficult. I understand how you felt probably in that moment, and getting to this point right now. Looking back, you do it all over again just to make sure that they are okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even when I went into the other relationship, I mean, I never thought that would happen. They supported me, through everything. They were so happy for me that mom's smiling again, mom's happy. And when everything fell apart, it was almost as if the roles reversed and they were parenting me. It was, it was amazing, how they just kind of took over everything and they were
Yeah.
advising me. The tables just turned. And I guess that's what family is all about. It doesn't matter when and where, we're just there for each other in any way that we possibly can. So, yeah.
No, thank you for giving us an insight into what it meant to write the book. But I was trying to go back to what was life before you actually were separated. Talk us through how did it feel living in that environment, and what was going through your mind, like in a day to day, that led you to this point?
I think I was a very busy mom. So
Mm.
I was on autopilot, I would say. I managed my home without any domestic help. I worked in the family business, and I was always there for my kids through everything. All three of them, it is just me, always being picking up, dropping off at school or university or whatever it was, I was there. And there was just no time to think about what I wanted or, do I have any needs or what did I want going forward? It was just something that just, I put on hold, I would say. It was always there at the back of my mind that I wanted more for myself. I knew I wasn't happy at all, but like I said, I was shielding my kids all the time. And at some point, the family business was, with Indian woman, you go to the family business. There is no financial reward. You're just helping out, kind of. You're not growing. There's no security. There's nothing. So at some point, I kind of told myself I need more for myself. And I went into real estate. And that was just amazing because it was mentally stimulating, it was financially rewarding, and I was doing something that was just for me. And, the kids were proud of me too, that mom, you're doing this. And it was after the divorce that I actually wrote my 50s, I was studying again and I wrote the exams and I qualified, and it was amazing. It was just an incredible milestone for me. But pre-divorce, it was just on that auto mode where you're just carrying on. It's you're in that existence mode where you're just pushing forward through every day. You're just getting through every day. And it was after my son's wedding that I think my body just couldn't take it anymore. We went into the first lockdown. It was just after his wedding was in February, and we went into our first lockdown. I was wheeled into hospital for emergency hysterectomy because my body just collapsed. And that recovery after a major op like that was very emotionally straining in our home, and it was then that my kids just told me, that's it. You're going to file for divorce. And within 8 months, it was my ex-husband didn't consent to it. It was, I filed under irreconcilable differences. I said, this is just not going to go on like this anymore because it was just a very unhealthy, stressful environment that we were living in. And 8 months later, the divorce came through. We had lost our business during that time as well. We were in huge financial debt. We paid off all our debts. My daughter bought a little townhouse, and that's where we live now, and we're much happier. Despite losing everything, and you realize, we work all our life for all this material stuff. We want certain things in our lives. And having my own home was always my dream. I lived with my in-laws for 16 years, which gave me some superwoman powers, I can say.
I can imagine.
16 years, yes. And when I finally had my own home, it was like I was breathing differently. But that too didn't save my marriage because as a couple, we were growing apart. So, 14 years later, I filed for divorce. And I lost everything that I thought mattered to me, but I think your peace matters the most at the end of the day. That realization only comes much later in life. And after 50, I can tell you it is incredible. Everyone thinks that, oh, she's so old. They're getting old, but it's incredible.
Nah.
Your mindset just changes and it's just amazing.
That's the thing, right? Communication is such an important aspect of a relationship. And even I will share something with you is that in growing up, we never saw our parents communicate uh, hard topics, hard discussions. Yes, maybe they had their discussions privately, but we never saw that. And I took that into my relationships. So I didn't know how to communicate that and of what I needed, what I felt, and not be afraid to say what I wanted to. We don't really say how we want to feel because we don't want to rock the boat and have those hard discussions or difficult discussions, so to speak, because we feel if we keep the peace, everything will be okay. But that's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is
Yeah.
keeping the peace is saying how you feel. And
Yeah.
yes, we cannot control how the person will react. But you know, if you're telling your truth, that's all that matters. Because the other way around, my wife will tell me how she's feeling, and that's her truth. How I react to it, that's my choice. And how I tell it to her is her choice. How she reacts, but it doesn't mean we stop loving each other. It's just we are human beings. End of the day,
Yes.
you know. So saying your truth is important to each other, and I feel that's more important now than just trying to keep the peace. Peace will come with truth. Did you feel like only one side of your side was making the decision to change and the other side was just, no, I'm just gonna let it be?
Yeah. I think for me, I married the whole family. So,
As they say, as they say.
Yeah. So there was a lot of, it wasn't just between me and him a lot of the time because I lived there for 16 years. So it was more about the whole family dynamic, about what was going on in the home.
Like the ZTV.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I always felt like I wasn't even a part of that family, so it was very difficult. And I just kind of lived in silence because I didn't want to seem disrespectful. I didn't want my kids to feel, that tension that was always brewing, and even I think it does manifest in them to a point because they're living in it. But you're kind of not talking out. Like you say, you don't talk about it. You don't talk about it, you can't resolve it. And when when you're living in a dynamic like that, talking about it shows they won't listen. They won't understand. It doesn't come across as an understanding of this is how she's feeling. They would just say she's being disrespectful. You're living in their home and now you're being disrespectful because you're supposed to conform to all their rules. But what about you? You also have needs. You go into a home and suddenly you just got to change. You got to be what everybody else wants you to be. So it was very difficult. And I've always been that submissive kind of personality where I just gave in. And I think that came from my upbringing where, we don't talk about it, but it's something I discovered that I always felt unworthy. And I grew up being told that you're not doing enough, you're not good enough. So you kind of develop that doormat syndrome. You kind of just want to please people all the time. And I did that for 16 years, thinking that things would change, that they would finally accept me if I did everything the way they said I must do it. But it doesn't. You eventually your system shuts down. You break down and there's that part of you because you're also growing. You don't stay the same as you were. I got married when I was 22. I had my first kid at 23. So I was a kid having a kid and I'm growing with my children. Yes. And as I'm growing and I realize that, they need to listen and things need to change. And you're not growing as a couple because you're with your family. You're growing in a family, but not as a couple. And it was 16 years later when I moved into my own home that for 2 years, things were amazing. And then you realize that we're actually growing apart instead of growing together. And, business issues came into the home and it's more the financial stuff, but you're not really growing together in the way that it matters. So it was just something that I tried to keep it together, but it wasn't working. It just wasn't working. And I just couldn't see myself growing older in that relationship. I saw something different. And that's I think it was inevitable. It was going to happen. The divorce was just something. And when people, when in our community, they say, "Oh, you're divorced. Shame. I'm so sorry you're
Oh,
divorced." And I say,
shame.
"Say congratulations."
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Before we jump back into today's episode, a quick favor. If you're enjoying the conversation, please take a moment to subscribe, follow, and share this podcast with someone who could benefit from it. And if you haven't already, leaving a rating and review helps us reach more people and continue bringing you meaningful conversations each week. Thank you for being part of this community. Now, let's get back to the episode.
No, I agree
But,
with you there. It's something that's also now like very up high on the discussion of growing as human beings, and especially in relationships, is how do young boys, men, and even men my age, how do we get, in your perspective, what do you feel is that men need to start doing more of in order to be a little bit more assertive in their masculinity, not in a abrasive way, but I mean within the relationship, to say, I understand what my role is, and where can I also help bring us together.
I think what I feel is, I have a son that's married, and I, kind of watch his relationship with his wife as well. And I think the word that needs to come into a marriage dynamic now is partnership. Partnership is so important. And it's about understanding each other's needs and embracing each other's needs, and valuing each other, in each other's careers, in everything. My son works, my daughter-in-law works, they have a little daughter, and it's how you manage that whole situation together, and we came from a time where if we worked, who was going to look after our children? So we made the decision to do it ourselves, even if it meant losing our careers along the way. We just kind of put it aside and said it's not important. But together, working together, and I think both ways, learning to understand, to listen to each other, not just kind of hear each other, listen to what each other needs. It's so important, because I came from a situation where I wasn't even heard. It's like you're talking and you're talking, and it's like, how many more times do I have to say it? Listen to me. Let's work together on it, because it's a partnership. We're together in this thing together. So yeah, I think for men and women, it works both ways. It's not about control and manipulation and, one taking more from the other. And, we don't live in that dynamic anymore where the woman stays at home and the man earns the money, and because he brings the money, he controls the whole situation. It doesn't work that way anymore, I think. So, it would be lovely to see couples understanding each other in that way, and that careers are important for both of them. Bringing up kids is so different these days. It's like both mom and dad are working. The kid goes to school at a young age. And when the kid comes home, both mom and dad have to be present. Mom and dad are cooking these days, which is, yes, it's wonderful. It's amazing that so many men have taken on that role where they don't see it as a woman's job, and women don't see earning money as a man's job. So I think that understanding is important.
Now we're looking for they have this list, people need to meet certain criteria before you even actually get into a relationship. It's like a checklist now, and that's very
Premarital counselling.
Yeah, I wish we had that before we actually got, in our societies. I wish we actually had that growing up.
We had it with our parents and grandparents, I think.
Yeah, no, but they didn't know better either.
No, as long as you're marrying in the right caste, you're good to go. Everything will work out.
Yeah, no,
that's what it was
fly.
like.
I don't think it flies now anymore.
No,
but
it doesn't.
Coming back to the premarital concept, it's, the Christian community, they do that. They have workshops before, with their churches before they go into the marriage, and they do all sort of scenario-based workshops. And I think that's also a very good idea, because it also then gives you the opportunity to make the decision before you get into that relationship, whether you think, okay, this is actually for me or not. And then, you save that person or each other's, the time. You don't waste their time, or they could have, have gone into a relationship with somebody else or whatever it may be. But I think if we can start doing that, I think there'll be a lot more healthier relationships going forward. But also the emotional side of it comes into it as well, because sometimes we hold on to that person for so long because we just don't want to let
and
go
that
of them.
hope that it's going to work out. We're going to do it together. And so if you can resolve your differences before marriage, then but it doesn't always work that way, I think, because you never really know a person till you live with them. You don't know. That is something, I think it's non-negotiable. You don't know what. Sometimes it's little things like habits, the little minor things
Nuances,
that kind of get to you. Yes. So, I think compatibility it's a huge topic. Sometimes it's the compromise that comes. I think that compromise is big. Learning to understand each other's likes, dislikes, needs, wants. And it's something that's such an intimate couple thing. It's like he loves sports and I should embrace that. He loves to watch soccer on a certain day, and you can get a wife that doesn't.
That's us.
So, so, and if it's, if you embrace it, it becomes a family thing, because when you have kids, then you all enjoy it together. So it's those kinds of decisions that are so important.
Talk to me about your emotions and how are you going through during the divorce? What did that feel like? And I know your body took a lot, because our body tells us when something is not right. Talk to me how you were feeling and what got you through to the other side.
I juggled a lot during the divorce because it was COVID. It was during that time, and I was still working in real estate, so I had a lot going on, with transactions. I sold my house privately as well, just to avoid all those fees. I discussed it with my principal. I said, look, this is the situation and I'm going to handle it on my own. So, there was just so much going on. And I think I didn't even have time to pause and think about how I was feeling. All I knew was I had to get through it. And, I had to kind of, what was more important to me was my children and how they were getting through it. How were they feeling? And I'm the mom and I'm supposed to hold everything together. So I didn't want to show them that I was breaking down inside. I wasn't managing. I wasn't coping. I had to keep it all together. But I mustered all that strength and I did get through it. And I think the feeling afterwards, after divorce, and just it was that weight lifted off. Coming home to our new home, and there wasn't that fear anymore of, when you're living in a space where you're afraid when somebody comes home, what is his mood going to be like? What is this going to be like? What is he going to say today? And, the kids were like stressed and tense as well. And not having those feelings and those emotions to deal with was the most liberating, amazing thing. So I think in terms of emotions and feelings, it wasn't something that I struggled with after divorce. I started, we accomplished so many things, my kids and I, during that time after divorce, immediately after divorce. We set up a dental practice for my daughter. I was writing exams. My other daughter was graduating. So it was all these little accomplishments that we just celebrated and embraced as a family. It was amazing. It was incredible. And I was kind of rebuilding myself, discovering myself. And one of the things that saved me was, things that we put off when you're in a relationship and you don't have the time to do. I started gymming again and I started building my strength again. My daughter was running, so she picked up on the stuff that she left a long while back.
Nice.
And she says, Mom, you can do it too. I said, okay. I used to do it as a kid, and I started running. And then as a family, we used to go for these Sunday morning runs with these clubs. And it was such a nice thing to do as a family. You know, my son, my daughter-in-law, my granddaughter in her pram, we were all running. And then my daughter challenged me and she says, Mom, I know you can do it. So I did a 21-kilometer marathon.
Lovely. Amazing.
And I never thought I could do it. And I bid everybody goodbye that morning. I said, I don't think I'll see you again. But I completed it. I did the Soweto Marathon. I mean, obviously it's running, walking, but I completed it. And even though your body can't take it, you know, it shows what your mental state can do for you. And you can say, I can do this. I can do this. And you do it. And it shows how strong your mind is. And it's in going forward, any part of your life, any stage of your life, it's your mental strength that gets you through at the end of the day. So I think your mind is your most powerful organ. You can tell yourself anything, you can accomplish anything just by your state of mind.
100%.
Yeah.
From the sounds of it, it's like the clouds lifted for you guys.
Absolutely.
Like that fog cleared and everything was now visible, clearly, consciously, emotionally, physically, everything kind of just lifted. Like there was like a cloud hanging over you guys. And I sense a lot of self-love came into it again, because now everybody started doing everything that they actually felt they could do without any shackles, so to say, or without any chains.
And no need for permission. Didn't have to ask for permission to do anything. We just kind of went on and didn't look back. So there was no regret. That's the most important thing. I had no regrets on the decisions that I made. So it was just the most, and it wasn't just for me, it was for my children as well. Because had we stayed in that situation, we would have all been held back. We would have all kind of struggled and suffered in that whole dynamic and, you know, the situation itself. So it was for everybody.
Similar to myself, I decided, okay, I needed to now rebuild, because coming out of, you know, the hospital after a 2-week stint in Glenwood, actually in Benoni, you know, you are surrounded by people who actually are going through a lot, and you know, you pick up on bits and pieces of how people are in what mental state they are. Because I was in there for depression as well. But you take time out for yourself. That's the time now that you actually have to reflect a lot on. And that was my cloud. That was my time when the clouds were around, the fog was still very much visible. And coming out of that, when you said you started gymming again, you started doing a lot of the things that you loved before. Same with me. Like, I loved being active. And then when you go through those stages, those kind of actions kind of like minimize. You see it. You don't really, you think about it, but you realize, hey, I'm not enjoying the things I used to do before. I don't feel the energy to do so. I don't have the mental capacity. And looking at myself now, like, I've put on a little bit more muscle. I feel better, headspace wise as well. I think a little bit more cognitively now, but all because we have to go through those journeys. We have to go through those dark times to actually make the decision when you come out of it to say, hey, I'm going to change. Because sometimes some people don't, and they stay in that environment or in that mental state. But it's a choice. Like, you made the choice to change, to run, to get better, and to live for yourself.
Yeah.
And you can be then for your kids after that, and for everybody else. Because once you're there for yourself, you can be there for everybody else. That's
and
the
it's
point
amazing. You know, the more better you feel about yourself and about your, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally, you're in a better state for everybody else, you know, and it's just incredible. And it's not a selfish thing. It's actually, you're doing it for you and for your loved ones. And I always said, I want to be healthy. I don't want my kids to struggle with me as I grow older. And that's why I do what I do. And I'm actually enjoying it. It's like I miss it when I have to stay away from it for a while, if we're on
Good on you.
holiday or
Good on you.
something. So yeah.
No,
So
pat yourself on the back.
yeah.
Give yourself that self
Yeah.
love as well, because it's hard when you're actually looking for it, but it doesn't actually come. But when you take accountability and you say, "Hey, well done to yourself,"
Yeah.
it
And
does
that's,
make a difference.
one of the things, it's like I do it with my children, and there's no way, you can do it with your partner as well. So that's where, your connections come in. You can always, all enjoy the same thing. Like my kids and I, we enjoy watching sports. We enjoy Formula One. We've been to the Grand Prix as well. We learn to do things together. We learn to enjoy the things that someone else is enjoying. And, it's incredible when you live together as a family doing things together. And why can't you do it with your partner? Where you say you come, the wife can obviously enjoy what the husband's doing, and the husband can join the wife when she's doing something. And I think that's the compromise. And that's how partnerships work eventually,
I would say also we
ultimately.
also have our own interests that might not interest
Yeah.
our partners as well, and we have to respect that as well.
Yes.
For us, like my wife loves the theater. I do some productions, but not all of it. Like she loves the opera and ballet. Like for me, I've tried it. I've gone with her a couple of
Yeah.
times, and like it's not for me.
Mm.
It just doesn't interest me. But that doesn't
But you
mean,
respect that. Yeah.
yeah, I respect it,
Yes.
and she knows
Yes.
that I love football and I love going to watch games. So if there's a game on at our local stadium here in Toronto, she'll say, "You go," because it's not something that she enjoys. But that's
Yes.
not all the time. It's not all the time that we do things separately. It's just that
Yes.
we also respect each other's
That's true.
own choices, and
Yeah.
we come together. Like we love hiking, we love going on walks, and that's our time to discuss and connect, and also on date night. So we have like a
Yes.
date night thing every week, on a Wednesday
Okay.
or Thursday,
Mhm.
where we just go out. Like yesterday, we went out to Nando's over here, and on our walk back, it's a lovely time in Toronto in the summer. Some sunsets late, so
Yeah.
walking, it's safe. We walk, we talk, and we connect, and those kind of small things make a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Do you
And
feel like,
respecting each other's space. It's so
yeah,
important. Yeah. And that trust, trusting each other, you're going for the game, she's going for something. That trust is so important.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And you
and we
don't get
love.
that. Yeah, you don't get that, all relationships, It's like you're
No, but it's
going on
very
your
hard work
own.
to get there, right? It's a
Yeah,
lot of
it
work
is.
to get there. It's a lot
It
of
is.
compromise,
Yeah.
a lot of sacrifice, a lot of
Hmm.
understanding, a lot of listening, which something I also need. I've been trying to work more on is listening instead of just reacting.
Listening. Yeah.
Sometimes we don't get it right all the time, but
Yeah.
there are moments where you just need to listen
But at
and
least you're aware of it. And that awareness is the most important thing, because there's a lot of people that are not aware of, getting it right. So
yeah,
if you're aware of it, it's the first step to reconciling and making a difference.
yeah.
Yeah.
Who was there for you when you were going through these moments in life? Did you have somebody you could count on?
My children. That's all. And I think that's one of the reasons I felt that the writing was my outlet. It was my way of kind of connecting in a different way, because my children are there for me, but I can't tell them everything. As a
Yeah,
parent, I have to have those kind of, there's boundaries. You can't kind of offload everything onto your children, and you don't want them to be stressed about things that they shouldn't be stressed about. I don't want to lay that load on them. So for me, um, writing was the most therapeutic way of kind of putting things, getting it out of I wouldn't say getting it out of my system, but rediscovering myself, and kind of using it in a way that I could actually, it was therapeutic in many, many ways, because I could, I don't know how many times I went back to read what I wrote, to say, did I actually feel this? Did I actually write this? But I didn't edit much of it, because in that moment, that's how I felt.
Mm.
And that's how I wanted the message to come across. So, yeah, would say that there wasn't, when you're going through tough times, everybody disappears.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody
When the good times
disappears.
come
So,
around, they're all there.
yeah. And you discover, and, if you're not that type of person that wants to go out and talk about all your stuff to everybody, you kind of just turn inward. And that's what I did. And I've always been that way. So, yeah, my book is my story, basically, what I went through as I was living it.
Yeah. Talk to me about the title of the book. My chai is strong. A lot of people who understand what chai is would know. I would think, oh, my chi is strong. The Asian.
Yeah.
The
So, yeah, there's many different versions of chai, and
yes,
we like it strong. I'm sure you've know a strong cup of tea where it hits you in the
masala
throat.
tea.
It hits you. Masala tea, as you know it. For us, tea runs in our veins. We start our day off with that teapot. It goes straight onto the stove. Grate your ginger in it. Put your masala in it. Nobody's day would start without that cup of tea. If you don't drink it at home, you fill it in a flask and you take it to work. That's how our day is. I grind my own spices. I know how my family likes it, so I still roast my spices, grind it. It's something that, it's the first thing we do when we walk into our home after a long day. The teapot goes up. If you need comfort, the teapot goes up. If you want a drink before the game starts, the teapot goes up.
Yeah.
So tea is everything. If anybody comes to your home, would you like a cup of tea? If you have a family gathering, it's around the kitchen table. It's not even a teacup, it's coffee mugs. You need that big cup of tea.
Yeah.
So
it's like our love language, so to speak.
Yep. Even though we drink coffee, but that tea is our comfort. And I can say, apart from my glass of wine next to my MacBook, the teacup also played its role. So I kind of correlated a lot when it came to, when how masala tea is made. It has to be brewed. It has to kind of, So I did a lot of chai reflections in that way. And I said, I kind of related a lot of my feelings with tea. So it means a lot to me when it comes to tea. It's like immediately after this podcast, I'm sure my teapot will go up. So
lovely. Yeah, chai is something that, like you said, it's in our veins. Even if you haven't had it in a long time, and when you do make it, it just feels differently. I love chai, and my mom used to always make it at home. And came to Toronto, I decided, okay, let me learn how to make it because I like it. And my wife doesn't really drink masala tea, so I said, okay, I enjoy something. Why don't I try and make it? And now I do all the masala, make sure it's right, the amount is right, the amount of masala goes in, the ginger, the cardamom, mint, and it's nicely brewed. You know when to put in your milk. But I love that process. I think writing the book for you was kind of like all those ingredients coming together, and at the end of it, that first sip you take, and when you first smelled that, or you first held that book in your hand, probably that's what it felt like. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's for me, it was more that there was a bit of the defiance, like, in my relationship, when he said, you and your stupid book. And I said, I'll show you, I will complete it. And I will use my experiences with you. I will put it down on paper and I will make the most of it. And I will use it as my healing journey. And, just holding that book completely, I think it hasn't hit me yet. My kids celebrated more than I did, to a point. Like, do you realize what you did? And for me, I think it was more just getting my feelings and thoughts down, all compiled in a book. I wrote letters to each of my children in my book saying what it meant for me, them being with me on this journey. My dogs played a huge role. They mean a lot to me, and their silence just is the most comforting thing, that their presence, they're always there. They just, no matter what, they're always there.
Yeah.
And I think having my granddaughter, she's going to be 2 in October. For me, that part just showed me that there's new beginnings. She is new beginnings. So you can't stay stuck in a situation, no matter what it is, no matter how you're feeling, what you're going through. They are new beginnings. And when I look at her and the way I feel, and I know that I'm not stuck in that situation, I can grow from this. So they all played a huge role in my healing. And I think it will kind of hit me when I do my book launch, which is now in August. So then it will obviously be real for me that this actually happened.
Yeah.
But
I can sense the humbleness in you. And I can sense that I don't think you realize what you've done. Like, honestly, I don't think you realize what you've done for a whole community of women right now, and actually also probably men. Some men might resonate with it as well. I don't think you've realized what you've done. But congratulations. I would say that's amazing.
Thank
it's an
you.
amazing achievement, and you should really pat yourself on the back for that. And a lot of people are also seeking advice at this moment in time.
Yeah.
What advice would you give somebody navigating separation at this moment?
I think I would ask them, what does happiness mean to you? And that separation doesn't mean the end of your story. It could also mean, a chapter of your story. Your marriage could be a chapter. For some people, it could be a lifetime. When I think about marriage and separation, I go back to a talk with that I listened to. Dr. Shefali talks about divorce and marriage. And she said a lot of people view marriage, a successful marriage, as the longevity of it. How long have you been married? Oh, wow, it's a successful marriage. But it's not how long you were in that marriage. It's how happy were you in that time, and I would ask a separating couple, do you make each other happy? Do you think that going forward, you can kind of continue on in that way? And if not, it's okay to divorce. It's okay to make that shift and say, you know what, I can't do this anymore. Because, everybody should. Happiness comes from within you. And if you can't be happy, you can't expect another person to make you happy. It's your happiness that spills over onto other people. And you can't say, I'm going to stay on in this and I expect him to make me happy going forward. So you have to ask yourself that question, can I be happy in this situation? And if not, it's okay. And it's okay to start over again. It's okay that it didn't work out. It's okay to choose yourself. So yeah, I think that's what I would tell. If my kids had to come and tell me, Mom, I'm not happy, I would say it's okay. I wouldn't say, I would say try and make it work, but it's okay if you feel that way and if you feel you want to go on your own way.
Yeah. End of the day, also, we're all just looking for that comfort and support and understanding. We don't need people to fix it for us. We just need people to understand and
say,
support us. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because they can't really do anything. It's just about that. I think that's where the difference lies between taking action and just listening, where sometimes it's just about listening to somebody and just allowing them to get it off their chest and not judge them for what they're feeling. End of the day.
Yeah. And just this 1 or 2 words, I understand, I hear you. It's so empowering, so powerful, so comforting. And not all of us had that. So
no.
Some of us had to listen to ourselves. We had conversations with ourselves all day long.
For sure. I hear you. I understand you. Before we wrap up the podcast, one thing you would tell a younger Sharmila, if you could go back and give her some advice?
I think the younger Sharmila was kind of very insecure in a way. We're always just trying to please everybody and trying to fit in, I would say. I would tell her that she'll be fine. and she's worthy and she can do anything she sets her mind to. So I actually did that exercise, where you go
Amazing.
back and you take your younger self's hand and you walk with her and you say, you know what, I'm on this journey with you and you are going to be okay and you are safe with me. And I think that feeling of safety is so important because in that same respect, if I had to go forward, I mean, I would love to enjoy the rest of my days with myself because I got married young and I had another shot at a relationship and it didn't work. And if I ever had to go into another relationship, the only thing that I would like is to feel safe, physically, emotionally, mentally. That's all I would want. And if I can't have that, then I'm okay with just being by myself. And I think I can do that. I've reached that mental space to do that.
Wow, you've taken me back to also when I did that exercise too, holding the young Kishen and walking and just knowing that you got their backs when they get to this
Yes.
point in life and you knowing that everything will be okay, no matter what happens. I got you, so to say.
Yes, I got you. Yeah. Yeah.
Now that the book is
That's right.
is real, and people who are interested in actually interested in reading it, how can they connect with you? Where can they find the book?
The books, they can connect with me on social media. The book's available on many, many platforms worldwide. South Africa, Take a Lot. It's available on Amazon digitally and the physical part. They kind of do it print on demand. So as
Okay.
you order, they print. And
Love.
there's another platform, Draft to Digital, that's Apple Books and Barnes and Noble. There's many ways of,
Amazing.
yeah. And my email address is in my book. So if anybody needs to connect with me, they can connect with me through my email and we can take it from there. So, I mean, if anybody would love to connect and talk about their experiences, as if I can make a difference in any way, I would love to do that. I don't know everything. I don't claim to know anything. I'm still learning. I'm still healing. But I've been there. I've done a lot of work on myself. And it will be incredible to share something with somebody to. And who knows, maybe they can share something along of their journey with me. And that could still make a difference for me.
Yeah, because somebody else's story could make a difference to our lives as well.
Yes.
Not just us talking right now, and we want to make a difference because you could make a difference to us as well. So thank you for that. I will also leave links in the description within this podcast below if you need
Thank
any
you.
references. I will also share it as much as I can with my community. But thank you, Sharmila, for sharing your story and openly and honestly being vulnerable with us today. I always like to take a theme out of each podcast, and today it's the power of the pen.
Absolutely.
We don't know how therapeutic putting something down is. So thank you for sharing that as well. And any last words before we wrap up?
Just thank you for giving me the opportunity. As I told you before, I am not a person that just speaks out. I always fade away into the background. So just being on this podcast, having this conversation with you was a huge thing for me. And I said to myself that I'm going to do everything that I fear. Doesn't matter how old I am. And this is one of it. And I hope it's the beginning of many more for me.
Yeah. I think it will be, actually. I think it's going to take another avenue for you. You're going to get into a whole new space. Maybe, who knows, you create your own podcast. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah. Yeah. But thank you for giving me this opportunity to.
You're most welcome.
Yeah.
Anytime. You're most welcome. Guys, thank you so much for listening today. I hope this resonated with you. Please share it with somebody who would love to hear Sharmila's story, or if you need to reach out to us, please do so in our socials below. Like, share, and subscribe. Please share it. It goes a long way, so I can bring you a lot more inspirational people like Sharmila. Until the next one, guys, stay zen. Thank you so much.